Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. I am the Inconsequential Runner and let's talk about the gap today. The gap in your running speeds. The difference in your running speeds between when you're running fast, irrespective of whether it's interval training or you're doing a race, or you're just smashing out your local park run, and those slow, easy paces that you'll be running on for your daily training and your recovery runs. Because you would have heard others talk about the need to have a gap there, not having that one speed for all your training, not running at threshold for your training and threshold for your races. Now, the gap has been something I have focused on increasing, making sure that there's a distinct difference between the speeds that I'm training at and the speeds I'm racing at. And I'll give you my data and what it means. But let's talk about the benefits that I've found. And one of the key benefits, and I was even thinking about this today out on a run, is making sure that during my training runs, I'm both improving and recovering ready for the next race or the next interval training, the next threshold session. So the purpose of 80% of your runs is to both improve but also recover. Enable yourself to be better. So for example, I had a pretty heavy duty run yesterday. Today I went out for a run. It was super easy. I could feel it in my legs yesterday's run. So today's run was about taking it easier. Now, those of you that might be new to this concept, that might be enough for you to start to appreciate the gap and start to make those differences. But those of you that are experienced runners, for us, it's a bit of a reminder to keep our egos in check. Now, I don't know if you're on Strava. I'm not. But I can imagine if you're on Strava and you're posting your running data knowing that others will see it, maybe that just contaminates your thinking about what it is that you should be doing on your run. Maybe if you're running a 6-minute 5K average, you're thinking, I'll tick up the pace a little bit to get it under 6-minute Ks into 5-minute something K average. And that's better. Now, I'm not sure if that comes to play or not, but why risk it? I'm not sure. Yes, I might be missing out on something, not being on Strava, but yeah, just be wary of those sort of things. Okay, so whether you're a beginner runner and you want to start to increase that gap and you'll be better and faster for it, or if you're an advanced runner and you need to continue to be mindful of that gap, this is that timely reminder. Let's talk about what you can do on your slower recovery or daily training runs. What you can do there is you can afford yourself to focus on the things you can't focus on during a race. During a race, your heart rate is very high, you're suffering, all of that good stuff. So you're not thinking about your technique. Maybe you are, but perhaps not as often as you are during your daily training runs. Now, one thing I'm really focusing on my technique at the moment is my hip movement, getting my hips to move. Making sure that my lower spine isn't too tight and I'm getting the most out of that fluidity you can get with your hips moving. Because I noticed my hips weren't moving as much as they should and it was all getting done by the legs. Now that sort of thing I can focus on in my daily run because it's easy enough. The daily run is easy enough to do where I can focus on something specifically. So the run's doing two things. I'm doing the run, but I'm focusing on something else during the run. Where the danger is, if I'm running too hard, too fast in my training sessions, then something like focusing on technique starts to drop away. Okay, let's get into the data now. I know that my training runs will be anything between about 550 a K through to 610, 615 a K. It's not a big window, but there does seem to be a big difference in terms of how it feels between your 550 and your 615. It's not unusual that my first kilometre might be 6.5 minutes, and then the next kilometre is just under 6-minute Ks, and then I might settle on the 550s and be running around about that. Now, sometimes I feel really fresh, and it feels really easy to be running 530s. Sometimes I'm doing those. But they are an extraordinary daily run for me. My daily runs aren't faster than 530s. Most of them, as I say, sit between the 550 and 615 range. That's minute per Ks average over the whole run. Racing, however, sub 4-minute Ks, relatively easy. Turn up to a park run, it's going to be a sub 20-minute park run. Sometimes if I'm feeling really good, you're getting closer to your sub 19, or just on it, or somewhere in that window. But a sub 20, if I'm not knocking that out, I'm a little bit disappointed. Now, don't rate me on the sub 20. Some of you are going to be way faster than that. Some of you are not. That's okay either way. But the key is this. If you look at the midpoint for my daily training runs at 6-minute Ks and compare that to 4-minute Ks for my racing, that's a 50% increase. 4 minutes, 50%, 2 minutes, 4 plus 2, 6. There it is. So there's a huge difference between 4-minute Ks and 6-minute Ks. But that difference seems to be working really well for me. As I say, it means when I'm running 6-minute Ks, I can be purposeful about incorporating other things into that 6-minute K run that will help me be faster overall. The other thing too, and on today's run, I wanted to do 7.5 kilometres as my Monday recovery run. Monday can sometimes be a rest day. Today, recovery run. So it's a good start to the week, having a few Ks under my belt. Sure. And this time last week, I did 7.5 kilometres. I want the Ks in this week to match last week. Or, better still, if you're measuring the time on your feet, I want the time on my feet this week to match last week. But at about the 4K mark, I knew I was going to be pushing it a little bit too hard to get to the 7.5K. And I had to remind myself, what is the purpose? Is it clocking up 7.5 kilometres? Or is it something else? And for me, it was something else. It was just to flush my legs out and get them in as good a condition as I can for tomorrow, where I'm going to be doing interval training. So I was honest with myself by asking the question, is it better that I finish this run at the 5K mark or I push it to 7.5? Am I being lazy finishing at 5? Or am I being too ambitious going for the 7.5K? And being honest with myself, finishing at 5K put me in a better position, or will put me in a better position for my training tomorrow. So we've got to be honest with ourselves, and that's another reason why you can let that gap grow. Now, as a final point, when you let that gap go between your running, your daily runs and your racing time, your cadence might come down. In fact, it will significantly come down. But if it feels like it's getting a little bit too low, you're plodding at your slower daily training speed, then you can still increase your cadence, but keep your speed down. And that was something I had to focus on. It was a learned skill to be able to run slowly. Run slowly, but with a high enough cadence, keeping things ticking over. Heart rate sitting at about 140 beats per minute average for the run, but not going over 150. Again, this is all relative to each of us. So the heart rate was doing enough to just flush things through my body, but without taxing my body. So it was better for doing the run. It helped me improve, but it didn't put me in deficit where I needed to do extra recovery. So this time tomorrow, I'm going to feel better than I did today. And that's the purpose. And that's why you want the gap. All right, that's it. Throwing that out there. Now, I know this video is going to be close to 10 minutes, and I'm hoping that that 10 minutes is going to save you hours and hours and hours, if not days and weeks of time where you're recovering from an injury that may have been induced because you didn't balance the load on your body properly. I see improving in running almost like pulling a brick with thread. If you just pull it gently and smoothly and just keep that pressure on, then you can move the brick. But if you jerk it too quickly, you'll snap the thread, the brick won't move. And that's kind of what I see myself doing with my training. It's just incrementally making it a little bit harder, but making sure that my body is adapting as I'm increasing the intensity. Okay, something to leave you with. Enjoy your next run, and that's the other thing with 6-minute Ks. Just enjoy it. Just enjoy it and do whatever it takes to really enjoy the run. For me, I love to listen to a podcast or something like that. Not during the racing, podcasts are too slow, but for the daily training. And it's a good way to whittle away a little bit of the time, and just focus on keeping it easy. All right, take care. Catch you in the next one.